What do you know from funny, you bastard?
The Jell-O program, starring Jack Benny with Mary Livingston and Phil Harris and his orchestra.
Thank you. This is Groucho Marx. Well, here I am, stepping in over my head again.
With Fibber McGee and Molly.
Folks, this is just as new to me as it is to you.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Benny, this is Rochester.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Well, what an original greeting.
Hello and welcome to another week of comedy, funny, haha, on Dwayne Old Time Radio. One thing, please subscribe to my channel. If you enjoy what I'm doing, subscribing is 100% free. Also, one more thing, if you have a few seconds or 1 minute, please leave a review on your preferred podcast service, especially if you're on Apple, Spotify, or really just your preferred podcast service. Thank you and hope you enjoy. We're going to start the month of February with The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. 2 episodes from Ozzie and Harriet. The first one is titled Exaggeration Troubles. That's the 44th episode. September 30th, 1945. Then The Princess Gift, the 45th episode. October 7th, 1945.
See if you can guess this one.
Is it a song or a slogan?
No, it's a slogan. A very popular slogan.
Go ahead.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, that's easy. America's finest silver plate is 1847 Rogers Brothers.
Oh, you're just too smart.
Sure.
From Hollywood, International Silver Company, creators of 1847 Rogers Brothers Silver Plate, present The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, starring America's favorite young couple, Ozzie Nelson and Harriet Hilliard. Well, folks, let's look in on the Nelson household at 1847 Rogers Road. It's late morning, but Ozzie and Harriet haven't even eaten breakfast yet. They were up quite late last night, and as we join them in the living room, they're discussing the events of the night before.
Gee, that was a wonderful party last night, wasn't it, Harriet?
Yeah, it certainly was. And it's amazing what happens to you after one glass of beer.
Now, just what is that supposed to mean? You trying to imply that one glass of beer made me, shall we say, a little hazy?
We shall say it.
It's ridiculous. After the party, I drove us home all right, didn't I?
See what I mean? We're the ones that gave the party.
I was just going along with the gag, Smarty. It was a very lovely party, and you know it. Have you called the insurance company yet?
No, I haven't really checked to see if there's any damage. Say, we certainly had a lot of interesting people here last night, didn't we?
Yeah, I wonder who they were. A lot of them were complete strangers to me. Of course, I was busy most of the evening being the perfect host.
Oh, yeah, you were the perfect host.
Well, now, why do you say it that way? I thought I was very attentive and very charming. I hope you noticed that I admired each and every woman's dress as she walked into the room.
You admired every woman's dress, all right. In fact, you mortified that one woman completely.
Well, how should I know she wasn't wearing a bustle?
Oh, say, and speaking of being a perfect host, how about the time you helped serve the sandwiches?
I thought I served the sandwiches very well.
Well, honey, there are certain things that guests take for granted. You didn't have to keep saying, they're free, they're free.
Don't be silly. Everybody knew I was only kidding. Oh, and by the way, dear, if we ever give another party, let's not invite that Charlie, huh?
Charlie who?
You know, that Charlie whatchamacallit.
Oh, him. I thought you liked him.
Oh, I guess he's all right, but he's such a ham. Always trying to hog the spotlight and be the life of the party.
Well, I didn't notice. When was that?
When? Why, every time I began my impersonation of Edward G. Robinson. You know, the one where I put the cigar in my mouth and I say, oh, so you guys are...
Okay, dear, okay. I've heard it so many, many times.
And another thing, how Charlie can tell those corny old jokes.
Oh,
Gosh.
hey, did you notice how all the women left the room every time somebody started telling a risque joke?
Yes, that always annoys me. Why can't they let the men hear it, too?
It was a swell party, though. I really had a wonderful evening. Wasn't it fun dancing for a change?
Yeah, it sure was. Hey, how about that big fat friend of yours doing the Roomba?
Yeah, she was quite a sight.
I'll say every time she danced around the room once, she rearranged the furniture twice.
I wonder if Gloria has breakfast ready yet. I'm absolutely starved.
Starved?
Well, not exactly, but you know how us women like to exaggerate a little.
Oh, yes, which brings up a little matter I've been wanting to talk to you about.
What's that, dear?
That exaggeration of yours at the party last night, the one that involved me.
Well, I've been wondering when you're going to bring that up.
Why did you announce to everybody that I could do 50 push-ups?
Of you, dear.
Were you proud of me when I could only do 7 and nearly burst a blood vessel?
You certainly let me down.
That's just the point I'm trying to make. I didn't let you down. You just built me up too high.
Well, how would it have sounded if I'd said, my husband can do 5 push-ups? That'd be pretty small potatoes. So I simply said 50. You noticed that everybody was very much impressed.
Yeah, until I couldn't get up after the 7th one. You must exaggerate, dear. I wish you'd leave me out of it. Oh, here's David. Good morning, son.
Morning, Pop. Morning, Mom.
Good morning, David.
When are we going to have breakfast, Mom?
Well, maybe I'd better go out in the kitchen and see how Gloria's coming along. Party kept her sort of busy last night, and she cleaned up afterwards. I'll be back in a minute.
How was the party last night, Pop?
Oh, it was a lot of fun, except for one embarrassing situation your mother got me in.
What happened, Pop?
Well, your mother insisted on bragging about me, and she just let herself go. Of course, she's a very lovely and wonderful woman, and I wouldn't criticize her for the world. But, oh, brother, how that gal can exaggerate things.
I know, Pop. When she tells other kids' mothers about my grades, she always adds 5 points onto every subject.
I'd like to hear what she'd tell them if you made 100 and something.
Don't worry about it, Pop. There's not a chance.
Oh, why not, David?
Well, nobody's perfect, you know.
Where'd you pick that line up?
From you.
Oh. When you get older, son, you'll find out that women are the biggest problem in a man's life. They're so stubborn and obstinate. And yet, at the same time, they're so changeable and confusing. It's impossible for you to figure them out.
Well, gee whiz, Dad. Why do men marry them?
Well, I'll take that up in a different talk. Right now, it's your mother's exaggerating I'm going to work on.
How, Pop?
Well, I don't know just yet. Say, David, I got it. Why didn't I think of this before? This is wonderful.
What is it, Pop?
It's the old psychology. You see, all I have to do is start exaggerating things much worse than she ever dreamed of. When she sees how silly that sounds, she'll quit exaggerating things herself. Do you understand?
Sure. Oh, boy, that sounds good.
Now, David, don't be surprised at anything I say at breakfast. I may say some very strange things, but I think this will cure your mother.
Okay, Pop. Can I help you?
Well, thanks, David, but I can handle it myself. When I really make up my mind to change something about your mother, you know what happens.
I sure do, Pop. But you might as well try anyway.
How's breakfast, dear?
Oh, just fine.
That's good.
Gee, I'm starved. I haven't had anything to eat for 2 weeks.
What did you say, Pop?
I said I haven't had anything to eat for 2 weeks.
Neither have I. What's the matter, dear?
Nothing. Listen to this, David. Oh, Harriet, did I ever tell you about that fellow in my lodge?
What about him?
Well, do you know what he had for breakfast every morning? 135 eggs.
Sunny side up?
Harriet, when I I say that a fellow eats 135 eggs every morning, isn't there a certain bet you'd like to make with me?
Of course. I'll bet you he likes eggs.
Well, there's something else I forgot to mention. This fellow that eats the 135 eggs for breakfast, he also finishes off 50 quarts of milk, 10 loaves of bread, and 6 dozen wheat cakes.
And a pickle.
Another slice of bread, dear?
Thank you. By the way, Harriet, I saw the strangest thing in the paper this morning. It's all about a boy with 2 heads.
Oh, is that so? Another boy with 2 heads. There have been several cases like that lately.
Well, this one is very unusual because one of his heads is smarter than the other, and this boy is in 4B and 4A at the same time.
That's right. Half of them is in my class.
A little more milk, dear?
No, thanks. I don't feel like eating anymore. I wonder what happened to Gloria.
Well, I don't know, dear, but if you finish breakfast, I'll call her. Oh, Gloria! Gloria!
Did you call me, Mrs. Nelson?
Yes, Gloria, I did. We finished breakfast. I imagine you must be pretty tired after the party last night, huh?
Oh, I don't mind. Just that one couple did keep me awake, though.
Oh, who was that?
Well, after everybody else went home, there was one silly couple out on the porch, and they were mooning and cooing and talking mushy talk, and I just couldn't fall asleep.
But, Gloria, you can't hear anything on the porch from your room.
You can if you lean out the window.
Was there much food left over, Gloria?
Well, let me see. There were 21 sandwiches.
Oh, 21 sandwiches left over.
Yeah.
And did you put them away?
Well, I put away 11, but I couldn't eat another 5.
Well, thanks to you, Gloria, everything at the party went smoothly, with the possible exception of those cocktails you mixed. Boy, they were really something.
Oh, that's a wonderful drink, Mr. Nelson. I invented it myself. I call it the air pressure cocktail.
The air pressure cocktail?
One drink and you blow your top.
Oh, so that's what it was.
My boyfriend, Elmer, really knows how to make strong drinks. He once mixed a drink, and all he took was one sip. And he ran up to the wall and drew a great big picture of an automobile on it.
Oh, isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah. And then I took a sip, jumped in, and drove home. Well, I better take this pile of dishes away. Oh, before I go, I knew there was something I wanted to tell you. You know that drain in the sink that we've had so much trouble with?
Yes.
Well, there was something left in some of the glasses, and I poured them into the sink. It's not clogged up anymore. I'll see you later.
Harriet, did you hear that story Gloria told about the drink in the automobile?
Yes, I thought it was very funny.
You didn't think it was an exaggeration?
Well, what do you mean, Ozzie?
I simply mean that you've become so accustomed to exaggerations, dear, that you don't even notice them anymore. Now, take that fantastic story I told you before about a guy eating 135 eggs, 10 loaves of bread, 6 dozen wheat cakes, and 50 quarts of milk in one meal. It didn't even surprise you.
Well, why should it surprise me? I've had your relatives over for dinner. Your Uncle Peter could eat that guy under the table and then eat the table right off of him. The last time your Uncle Peter had dinner here, you could reconstruct the skeleton of a cow from the bones in his plate.
Harriet, it so happens that my Uncle Peter hasn't even got any teeth.
Then I got news for you. He gummed us out of 40 red points.
Harriet, I'm merely trying to show you how foolish it is to exaggerate things. I know you don't mean any harm, but it's little things, like the price of a dress, the age of a piece of antique furniture.
Oh, my goodness.
What's the matter, dear?
Gee, I almost forgot the antique man's coming this morning.
Antique man? Harriet, you're not going to do the living room over again, are you?
Well, Well...
But, Harriet, I had a hard time wearing those chairs down so they'd fit me. Why, it would be like selling a part of me. A very important part to me.
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to do it, honey. And even if I do, I'll be haggling for at least a month with the antique dealers. Maybe I change my mind. Excuse me, will you, dear?
But, Harriet, I haven't finished.
Oh, you don't mind eating alone, do you?
I mean about the exaggerating.
Oh, that. I promise never to do it again as long as I live.
There's an exaggeration right there. I'm going to cure her of that exaggerating if it's the last thing I do. And there's a distinct possibility it'll be the last thing I do.
The silver plate of 1847 Rogers Brothers is about ready to make a trip. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, America's finest silver plate is all set to go from Meriden, Connecticut, to the silverware dealer, to you. And let me tell you, it'll make the trip in style. 1847 Rogers Brothers silver plate will leave Meriden groomed in perfect beauty, as lovely as artistic hands can make it. And I'll wager if you could be around when it arrives at your silverware dealers, you'd see that old expert's eyes light up with welcome. It's been a long time since he's seen silver plate with the exquisite, unmistakable craftsmanship of 1847 Rogers Brothers. A long time since he's been able to say to one of you, now here's silver plate with design features formerly found only in solid silver. Well, it's a long time since you've seen 1847 Rogers Brothers silver plate yourself, but it won't be much longer. 1847 Rogers Brothers silver plate is coming your way soon. So keep an eye out for it. Give it a welcome home. It's America's finest silver plate. Your silver plate. Created by famous 1847 Rogers Brothers. And here are lovely singing stars, the four famous King sisters.
I don't care who knows it. I'm in love with you. I guess I'll always be this way. Can ever change me. I'm for you forever. Yours my whole life through. That's how I am, and I don't care who knows it. I'm in love with you. I don't care who knows it. Baby, I love just you. I guess I'll always be this way. Nothing you ever do or say can change me. Guess you're stuck with me. I'm for you forever. Yours my whole life through. That's how I am, and I don't care who knows it. Shouting from the steeple, telling all the people, darling, I love just you.
Well, Ozzie seems to have quite a problem on his hands trying to figure out a way to cure Harriet of her tendency to exaggerate things. Right now, he's out on the front lawn thinking things over and hunting for devil grass when the Bobby Sox department from next door calls to him.
Hello, Mr. Nelson.
Oh, hello there, Emmy Lou.
How are you doing with that devil grass?
Oh, pretty good. I wish that was my only problem.
Oh, something serious?
Well, no, not really, but it's something that might eventually prove embarrassing.
Could I be of any help? I've got $9 saved up out of my allowance.
Oh, well, thanks very much, but that's not what I meant this time. You see, I've been trying to prove something to Mrs. Nelson. So far, I've been completely unsuccessful.
What's it about?
It's this business of exaggeration, Emmy Lou. Why do women exaggerate anyway?
Women don't exaggerate, Mr. Nelson.
They don't.
No. It's just that after they get done telling the truth, they keep on talking.
Yes, it does sound pretty reasonable, but I still don't understand it.
Well, I'll try to explain it to you, Mr. Nelson. Suppose I'm introduced to some boy, and he's really an absolute goon. Do you imagine for one moment that I'm going to tell my girlfriends that I met a goon? Of course not. I tell them that I met the most divine man, an utterly handsome, simply super dreamboat.
Oh, and then they think he's quite a guy, huh?
Oh, no. Then they know he's a goon, or I wouldn't have said all that.
Emmy Lou, you're going to make some man a fine wife. You're confusing already. But let's get back to my problem. How am I going to stop Mrs. Nelson from exaggerating?
Well, let me see now. Oh, I have an idea. You could... No, that wouldn't work. See, how does this sound to you? You could... No, that wouldn't work.
Say maybe I could...
No, that wouldn't work either. It really is a problem, Mr. Nelson.
Maybe I was on the right track before when I was exaggerating things to show her how silly it sounded.
That sounds like a good idea.
I know, but it didn't work. Maybe I wasn't exaggerating the right things. Maybe I should get something she cares more about.
Who's that man going into your house?
Oh, it's probably the antique dealer.
Are you getting new furniture?
Well, Mrs. Nelson thinks so. Wouldn't be new anyway. It'd just be different old furniture. She's going to sell a few things to him, I think.
Oh.
As I was saying, if there were only... Hey, wait a minute. That's it. Antiques. Now, that's something that Harriet's crazy about.
What are you going to do, Mr. Nelson?
Boy, have I got an idea. When he tries to buy a piece of furniture, I'll put a figure on it that's so ridiculous he won't buy anything. That'll show Harriet where exaggeration can get you.
That's a wonderful idea, Mr. Nelson. Go ahead.
No, not yet. First, I'll wait till he's in the house and looking over something he seems to like. Then I'll come in with the surprises. By the time I get through, George Washington will have slept on every antique we have in the house, including the chandelier.
Mrs. Nelson?
Yes. Are you Mr. Johnson from the antique shop?
Oh, no. My name is Clark. I'm from the county tax assessor's office. Just dropped in to get an estimate on your furniture so we can figure out your tax. Won't hurt at all. This year we're using Novocaine.
You certainly seem happy at your work.
Oh, I've been at it a long time. Know it like a book. Yes, ma'am. When I start assessing, I ain't just a guessing.
If it's got to be done, it's got to be done. Here's the living room. Go ahead and assess.
Yeah, okay, I'll start with this table here. Well, it's very nice. Looks moderately priced. I'd say $50.
That's about right. Oh, hello, dear.
Oh, hello, Harriet.
Ozzie, this is Mr. Clark.
How do you do? I was just looking this table over, Mr. Nelson. Your wife and I figure it's worth about $50.
$50? Are you kidding? This table is worth $5,750.
Ozzie!
Is this on the level?
Absolutely.
Well, I'll take your word for it, but just looks like an ordinary table to me.
As a matter of fact, it was originally a footstool used by an old Scottish knight, 8 feet tall. Of course, the knights were longer in those days.
Ozzie, dear, Mr. Clark
And
is...
I suppose you think this piano here is an ordinary piano?
Well, it looks like a regular piano.
Well, sir, this is one of the most valuable antiques in all America. This happens to be the very piano that the finance company took back from Franz Schubert.
Amazing. Are you sure of that?
Well, why do you think he never finished the unfinished symphony?
Oh, say, I was wondering why he hadn't written anything lately.
Ozzie, why don't you let Mr. Clark judge these things himself?
My wife is very modest about it, but practically everything in this room is a rare treasure.
Oh, brother.
Hey, I'd better mark some of these things down. Do you have a pencil?
Well, here, you can borrow my pen.
Thanks. Now, what would you say that piano and bench were worth, Mr. Nelson?
Oh, really, Mr. Clark?
Well, that's hard to say. Let me see. I tell you what, just put down any large figure. You won't be more than a few $100,000 off.
Well, if you insist, I'll just... Whoop. Say, one thing I know ain't a rare antique is this pen you just handed me. Look, I got ink all over my hands. And besides, it's got the initial N on it for Nelson.
Mr. Clark, N also stands for Napoleon, you know. It just so happens that was Napoleon's favorite pen.
You mean he got ink on his fingers, too?
Why do you think he kept his hand inside his coat all the time?
My. Say, Mrs. Nelson, you know, you haven't entered the conversation.
I'm a little sorry I entered the room.
She's very modest about all these
Well,
things,
so much for the antiques. Now let's get down to the everyday stuff, like, this floor lamp here.
Oh, well, that's just
Mr. Clark, you have just succeeded not only in picking out one of the most valuable possessions in the house, you have picked out the most valuable.
This floor lamp?
That's right. This floor lamp, as you so casually put it, was once used by Julius Caesar.
Oh, now wait a minute. Electricity wasn't even discovered then.
Now do you see why it's so valuable?
Oh, sure. Well, now tell me, Mr. Nelson, about what would you say the contents of the house are worth? Conservative.
Oh, I'd say conservatively. $450,000.
I give up.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Nelson. You've been most cooperative.
It's been a pleasure, I'm sure, Mr. Clark.
Mr. Nelson, before I go, may I say just one thing?
Go right ahead. Silly sort of a fellow, isn't he? But a nice chap.
Ozzie Nelson, will you please explain those ridiculous stories you were telling that man? The way you were exaggerating.
Oh, was I exaggerating?
Well, you know you were, and it was very embarrassing to me.
Ah, now you begin to understand how embarrassing it is to me when you exaggerate.
Darling, I hate to take that big, happy smile off your face, but do you know who that nice man was?
Well, certainly, the antique man.
No, dear. That was the assessor for our personal property tax, and this year it's going to be a honey.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
Go on, tell me. I deserve it. Tell me what you think of me. I'm a dope. I'm a moron. Isn't that what you want to tell me?
Of course not, darling. You meant well. I think you're the smartest, the sweetest, the cleverest, the handsomest, the most wonderful husband in the whole wide world.
Well, at least I got you out of the habit of exaggerating.
Ozzie and Harriet will be back in a moment. But first,
Mr. Smith, I have a bone to pick with you. Do you know what I did yesterday? I went to my silverware dealer and asked for 1847 Rogers Brothers silver plate.
and he didn't have it.
He said if he could have sold 1847 Rogers Brothers silver plate to all the people who've been asking for it the last 3 years, he could have been retired by now.
I'm sorry, really sorry. But if you recall, all I've said is that 1847 Rogers Brothers silver plate will be back at your dealer soon. And that soon is getting closer every day.
Well, perhaps it's a little my fault. I'm so anxious to get 1847 Rogers Brothers silver plate, I run every time I hear the name. And by the way, I saw a lovely 1847 Rogers Brothers pattern in a magazine the other day, and I've been trying to remember the name of it.
Well, what's it like?
Well, it has 2 flower ornaments, one right where the shaft joins the bowl, and the other about halfway up.
Oh, that sounds like adoration.
That's it. Adoration.
Did you notice how richly raised those ornaments were? That's a feature exclusive with 1847 Rogers Brothers.
That's the pattern for me. I won't take anything else, no matter how long I have to wait.
That's a sound resolution, madam. There's no silver plate more worth waiting for than 1847 Rogers Brothers. And now back to Ozzie and Harriet.
What's that paper you've got there, dear?
It's a copy of our tax report. We owe exactly $152,740. And by the way, dear, from now on you'd better wipe your shoes before you come into the house. Our living room alone is worth $500,000.
Golly. Well, I better get down to the tailor shop tonight.
The tailor shop? What for?
Well, from there you can dig the shortest tunnel under the bank on the corner.
Well, I guess you suffered long enough, honey. Get that prison pallor out of your face. Our tax bill's very small because Mr. Clark got the correct figures and it's all straightened out.
Well, Harriet, that's wonderful, marvelous. How did it happen?
Well, all the time you were telling Mr. Clark those ridiculous things about our furniture,
Yeah?
I was standing behind you making certain widely used motions with my finger and forehead to indicate that your mental development had been arrested rather prematurely. And then later I phoned him to make sure.
Well, that's swell, I guess, but, well, just what did you tell him?
Well, you understand, dear, we were in a tough spot.
Yes, I know. What did you tell him?
In an emergency like this, you have to think fast, you know. I had to say something.
Harriet, what did you tell the man?
I told him you had a brain the size of a peanut.
There you go, exaggerating again.
International Silver Company, creators of 1847 Rogers Brothers Silver Plate, invite you to listen again next Sunday to the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, with songs by the King Sisters and music by Ozzie Nelson's orchestra.
And don't forget, America's finest silver plate is 1847 Rogers Brothers.
You're right, Harriet. America's finest silver plate is 1847 Rogers Brothers.
This program originates in the Hollywood studios of the Columbia Broadcasting System and is also broadcast over the Trans-Canada Network of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. This adventure of Ozzie and Harriet will be transmitted to our men and women overseas by shortwave and through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Appearing in support of Ozzie and Harriet were B. Benaderet, John Brown, Joel Davis, Louise Erickson. Original music was composed by Billy May. This is Vern Smith speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Gosh, I won't so long. Gee, how about that right here in the morning's paper, Harriet?
Ozzie, I can't understand a word you say. You're not talking, you're just mumbling.
Oh, I'm sorry. How's this? The solid silver with beauty that lives forever is international sterling.
Now you're talking.
The solid silver with beauty that lives forever is international sterling. From Hollywood, International Silver Company, creators of International Sterling, present the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, starring America's favorite young couple, Ozzie Nelson and Harriet Hilliard. Well, it's a beautiful fall morning both outside and inside the Nelson home at 1847 Rogers Road. David and Ricky are outside playing, but Ozzie and Harriet are at the breakfast table looking over the morning mail.
Well, it looks so there's a lot of mail for me.
Yes, honey, but just looks that way. Most of it's for David.
Oh. I'd like to know why David gets more mail than I do.
Well, dear, he sends in more box tops than you do.
Incidentally, whatever happens to the stuff that's in the boxes the box tops come from? Are we piling it up in a little room somewhere or what?
I don't know, and I'm afraid to ask.
Let's see what's there in the mail here. David Nelson, David Nelson, David Nelson, David Nelson, David Nelson, Alonzo Gorkin cut it. Hey, how did that guy slip in there? Is there somebody living with us we don't know about?
Let's see. Oh, I guess the postman made a mistake. It's not even our address.
Hey, look. There must be something wrong here. Here's a letter for us.
That's odd-looking handwriting, isn't it?
Well, we know some odd-looking people.
Hello, Mom, Pop. Is there a letter here for me from Charles Atlas?
Yeah, there probably is. You got a whole mess of them here.
Gosh, look at the one you got. Hey, Pop, can I have the stamp off that envelope?
Okay, just wait till I finish reading it. Hey, well, I'll be darned. Harriet, you'll never guess who this letter is from.
Really, who?
Let me see how good you are. See if you can guess. I'll give you a few hints.
Okay.
It's from a certain man we saw only once, a man who went far away, and you never thought you'd hear from him again.
The waiter at the restaurant last night.
No, you think I'm kidding. Now, think back a couple of months. Do you remember meeting a certain Arabian officer, Ali Magaga? He came to San Francisco to the peace conference. He visited Los Angeles one weekend.
Oh, sure, I remember now. That nice foreign fellow we met at the Palladium.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of that little country he's from?
Bazakastan.
That's right.
Yes.
Say, where is Bazakastan again?
Why, it's about, well, as a matter of fact, you go right through it to get to, before I tell you, let's see how good David is at geography. David, where is Bazakastan?
Gosh, I don't know, Pop.
Son, that just goes to show you should study your geography. What if when you're grown up, your son asks you, where's Bazakastan? What do you say?
I'll say, son, that just goes to show you should study your...
Okay.
Never mind it anyway. What does he say in the letter?
Let me see. Honored friends, it is I, Ali Magaga, who writes to thank you again for your kindness to me.
Oh, isn't that nice?
In appreciation of your friendship, which you bestowed on a stranger in your city, I am sending you in separate package a token of my extremely gratitude. Thanking you again for your kindly hospital. Prince Ali Magaga. Hey, I didn't know he was a prince. Gosh. P.S. If you're ever in Bazakastan, look me up. I'm in the book.
Hey, how about that? Isn't it exciting? A gift from an Arabian prince. What do you suppose it'll be?
Well, I don't want to build your hopes up, but didn't Ali Magaga tell us they had a lot of precious stones and metals in his country?
Yeah, and remember? He was wearing a big green emerald the size of a traffic light.
Please don't exaggerate, dear. I remembered very well, and it wasn't any bigger than a walnut.
Maybe he's sending me a string of pearls. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Well, I'm a little insulted. After all, I gave you a string of pearls once, and I worked pretty hard to get them, too.
That's right, you did. Took you 3 nickels to make that iron claw drop in the right place.
Anyway, I'll bet the gift is for me.
You know, you may be right. After all, Arabia is the place where they have those harems with beautiful dancing girls that do the dance of the 7 veils.
Oh, he wouldn't say.
Why not?
You mean you really think?
Well, sure. Maybe he sent you the 7 veils.
Fine. That's like getting a Tootsie Roll without the Tootsie. Say, you know, it would be funny if he did send me one of those dancing girls.
Oh, Ozzie, what would you do with an Arabian dancing girl?
Don't be silly. I like to dance.
Well, I still think it'll be a precious jewel of some sort. You know, those Arabian princes are fabulously wealthy. It could be a ruby.
Gee, a ruby. What are rubies worth?
Any price. Might be $500, might be thousands of dollars.
Gosh, imagine us with a ruby worth thousands of dollars.
He may send us a magic carpet.
David, don't let your imagination run away with you.
David, isn't it time you started for school?
Well, what do I have to go to school for if we're going to be rich?
Oh, hurry up, Davy. You'll be late.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye, son. He's a good little fella. I wonder where he gets that vivid imagination from.
You through with breakfast, dear?
Yes, I am.
I'll call Gloria. Gloria! Oh, Gloria!
Did you call me, Mrs. Nelson?
Yes, I did, Gloria. We're all through breakfast.
What do you think, Gloria? We got a letter from Bazakastan today.
Well, imagine that. When is he getting out of the army?
No, Gloria. Bazakastan is a country. We've just received a letter from a friend of ours telling us to be on the lookout for a gift from there.
Oh, I see. Where is Bazakastan located?
Well, it's a little country somewhere on the Arabian Peninsula, I believe.
Oh. You see, when I went to school, I was very bad in arithmetic.
Arithmetic? Gloria, you study about Arabia in geography.
I know, but if you can't add, you can't tell time. And if you can't tell time, how are you ever going to get to your geography class?
Gloria, look. Arabia is a country far away from America, and life's very different there.
It is?
Mm-hmm. It's a place of strange romance and adventure, where men come galloping out of the night, sweep you into their arms, and carry you off into the hills.
Did you ever walk down Hollywood Boulevard?
Anyway, Gloria, the important thing is that we're expecting a gift, so will you be on the lookout for it in case we're not at home?
Oh, sure, Mr. Nelson. You know I'm expecting a gift, too, from my boyfriend, Elmer. I think he's going to give me an electric iron.
An electric iron?
Well, I'm not sure, but I think so. Last time I saw him, we had an argument, and he said he was going to give it to me hot and heavy. Present are you expecting, Mrs. Nelson?
Well, we don't know, Gloria, but we think it might be a ruby.
Oh, that's nice. I've been expecting a ruby for 2 years now.
Who from?
Who cares? You know, you never can tell where you'll get things from. A fortune teller once told me I'd get something valuable from somewhere I least expected it.
And did you?
The very next day. I was eating oysters in a restaurant.
And what happened?
I got ptomaine poisoning and collected $200. I'll get it.
A delivery here for Mr. and Mrs. Ozzie Nelson.
Oh, is this the one that came all the way from Arabia?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you poor man. You must be tired.
Did you hear that? The package from Arabia.
Oh, wonderful. Want me to sign it, mister?
Yes, please. Sign right there.
Well, where's the package? Aren't you going to bring it in?
Well, I could bring it in, lady, but I think you better go out.
Well, let's go see what it is, Harriet. Harriet, where are you?
I'm right with you.
I'm coming, too.
Well, there you are, folks. There it is.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness.
Of all things to send us. A camel.
Yes, sir, folks, that's what it is, all right. A real live camel.
Is that what that is? I thought it was a horse with the mumps.
I can't believe my eyes.
I can't believe my eyes.
But I can believe my nose.
Something's got to be done about that camel we got yesterday. We'll just have to get rid of it.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Of course, David won't like the idea.
Well, I know, dear, but what can we do? With that camel in the yard, it's like living next door to a glue factory. Every time the wind changes, a different neighbor complains.
Yeah, I must admit he's a little on the gamey side. Sort of like the Hackensack River at low tide. I never realized that camels had such a peculiar fragrance.
Peculiar fragrance? He's practically a secret weapon.
You know, David was figuring on riding him to school tomorrow, too.
Oh, Ozzie, that's too dangerous. A little boy riding a camel down the street?
Oh, I don't know. Camels are tall. How high can a woman driver hit?
Well, David will just have to be disappointed then, because that camel's too strong for me to endure. I find myself hoping I'll get a head cold.
Oh, I agree with you. We got to get rid of him. You know something, though? I think Gloria's going to be sorry to see him go, too.
What makes you say that?
Well, yesterday, Gloria spent over 2 hours with the camel.
Oh, that's just plain silly.
Maybe it's just plain silly, but today she got a seat on the Sunset bus.
You know, I just got a frightening thought. Ozzie, you know, this is a little scary. It may not be so easy. Just how do you get rid of a camel?
I don't know. I guess the best thing to do would be to call the zoo.
Well, that sounds logical.
Sure, they need all kinds of wild animals. Let me see. Here's the number. I'll call them right now.
Hello?
Hello, is this the zoo?
That's right.
Well, my name is Nelson, and I have a camel.
Glad to know you. My name is Mike, and I got 3 of them.
I'm afraid I didn't make myself clear. You see, I don't like this camel very much.
Oh, you don't, huh?
No.
Well, I'll tell you something surprising. I ain't ever been caught with my arm around any one of these, either.
Look, I'll come right to the point.
Oh, no, keep me guessing. It's intriguing.
What I'd like to do is donate my camel to the zoo.
Oh, I see.
After all, you only have 3 camels there now.
Uh-huh, and you want to make it 4, huh?
That's right.
I'll tell you what I'll do. Just as soon as they give any indication that they want to sit down and play bridge, I'll let you know. Goodbye.
Oh, how do you like that? I thought the zoo would be happy to get a camel.
Say, this might not be so easy getting rid of him.
Oh, there's nothing to worry about, Harriet. I'll call the circus here in town, and I'll try the movie studios. And, of course, if worse comes to worse, there's always one thing we can do.
What's that?
We can always throw a saddle on him and sell him to Bing Crosby.
Something tells me Ozzie and Harriet are going to have their work cut out for them. Let's turn from Ozzie and Harriet temporarily to another young couple. It doesn't matter who they are. What matters are the words that the man is saying.
I'm home for good, darling. I got my discharge papers today.
Right now, those are probably the happiest words a wife can hear. The day she hears them, life begins again. All the dreams she's had, now they can come true. The home they planned, now they can have it. One of the first things they'll want, one of the first things you'll want if you're that young couple, will be fine silver. And International Sterling Silver is very fine. It's solid silver through and through. You can tell just by looking at it that only silversmiths of exceptional skill and long experience could create patterns so lovely. And if you stop to inquire, you'd find that the traditions of International Sterling Silversmiths are more than a century old, that the men who create today's beautiful international sterling patterns are successors to those early Americans who made spoons of coin silver. International sterling silver is something real and permanent. Your international sterling remains indestructible and beautiful all the days of your life. That's the kind of silver to build a home with. And these are the words that will get it for you.
International Sterling Silver.
We bring you now the delightful singing of the 4 famous King sisters.
Till the end of time, long as stars are in the blue, long as there's a spring, a bird to sing, I'll go on loving you. Till the end of time, long as roses bloom in May, my love for you will grow deeper with every passing day, till the winds run and each mountain disappears. I'll be there for you, to care for you through laughter and through tears. So take my heart in sweet surrender and tenderly say that I'm the one you love and live for till the end of
Harriet have been trying desperately to get rid of the camel that was sent them by an Arabian prince whom they had befriended. Not only is the camel less than beautiful, but he also has a very unfortunate personality. In fact, the neighbors are threatening to make things difficult if Ozzie doesn't get rid of Tall, Tan, and Tangy. As our scene opens, he's still phoning, trying to dispose of the prince's aromatic gift.
Hello, I have a camel here. Hello, I have a camel here. Hello, I have a... Well, you can wait a minute. I minus at a pair of nylons.
Well, you better think of something, Ozzie. We've called the zoo, the circus, and practically every movie studio in town.
Hey, wait a minute. There's still one movie studio left. Maybe this is the right place. Hello? Could I speak to someone in production, please? That's right. Hello? I have a camel here, and I was wondering whether you could use him over at your studio. Oh, you do? Well, he's a really fine camel, and I'm... What's that? Oh, well, thanks just the same. Goodbye.
Well, what went wrong that time?
They need one that's trained.
Well, ours is trained.
For a tap dance with Gene Kelly?
Well, what do you think we better do about him?
Well, first I think we ought to burn some old rubber and feathers in the incinerator to cover up the smell. Boy, it certainly is oppressive around here today.
And it isn't the heat or the humidity. It's a camel. How are we going to get rid of him?
I wonder if we kept him locked up in there, if it would be possible for him to get so he couldn't stand himself.
No, I don't think so.
I wonder if we should try to give him a rub-down with Mum.
Won't work. Look what happened yesterday when I tried to wash him with Lifebuoy.
What?
He ate 6 bars and stood out there blowing soap bubbles through his nose.
I'm afraid to answer the door anymore. Every time I go, it's another neighbor complaining.
You know, I've been thinking this over, and there's only one thing to do.
What's that?
Send the camel right back to Bazakastan where he came from. We can write a very courteous letter. You know. Dear Prince, thanks for the gift, but we just can't handle it.
By golly, I think you're right. You know, he seemed like such an intelligent guy, I can't imagine him sending us a camel. It's really your turn, but I'll get it.
Let's face it together, dear.
Good afternoon. Are you Mr. and Mrs. Ozzie Nelson?
Well, that depends.
The Mr. and Mrs. Ozzie Nelson who received the gift of a camel from... Oh, yes, this is the plane.
Well, what can we do for you?
Well, my name is Monroe, Thomas Jefferson Monroe, with the State Department, Washington, D.C.
Oh, won't you come in?
Thanks.
We received the camel from Prince Ali Magaga of Bazakastan, Arabia.
Splendid, Mr. Nelson, splendid. It was with great pleasure that we heard that you were honored by this gift from the prince.
What is your interest in the camel, Mr. Monroe?
Well, we of the State Department are always greatly pleased at an expression of goodwill between another country and ours. Such little matters go a long way towards strengthening and cementing deeper relationships between nations. Therefore, it is with great satisfaction that I take note of the fact that with this camel, friendships have become, I might say, ripened.
You might even say over-ripened.
I'm sure the prince sent you a fine animal.
Well, you better go out and take a look now if you want to see him, because I'm shipping him back to Ali Magaga today.
You're doing what? Mr. Nelson, you don't know what you're saying. You can't ship that camel back. That would constitute an insult of the greatest proportions. Please, Mr. Nelson.
Well, I'm sorry, but I have to. Can't keep him here. We've had nothing but complaints ever since he arrived.
You mean the neighbors?
Not only the neighbors. We got a call from a flower shop in Glendale that 200 petunias had curled up and died.
Well, I hate to apply pressure, Mr. Nelson, but as a representative of the State Department, I must appeal to your patriotism. I must insist that you reconsider.
You mean we have to keep the camel?
But of course. The prince would be horribly offended if you got rid of the animal.
But we're offended now. Constantly.
This is the same thing as asking us to move.
Mr. Nelson, I'm sure you wouldn't want to do anything that might lead to international complications.
Well, I can't believe it'd make that difference. Frankly, I'm from Missouri.
Oh, you are from Missouri? In that case, maybe something can be done about it at the White House. In the meantime, don't get rid of that camel.
Harriet, this is the worst mess I've ever been in. The State Department won't let me send the camel back, and the police and the neighbors refuse to let me keep it. It's like having your pants catch on fire in front of the YWCA.
Well, the only thing left to do is try and bluff it out. You know that? Let's just pretend we haven't got any camel around here, no matter what the neighbors say.
Well, we can try, I suppose.
Oh, look, here comes Mrs. Broadstreet up the walk, and she looks awfully mad.
Well, just stick to our story. We don't have a camel.
I've stood for a lot of things from neighbors in my time, Mr. and Mrs. Nelson. But you've just got to get rid of that camel.
Camel?
Yes, that camel of yours has got to go.
Oh, you must be mistaken, Mrs. Broadstreet. We have no camel here. All Mrs. Nelson and I have are 2 sons.
Then the one with the long tail just ate all the wash. The wash off my line. It was simply disgraceful. And don't tell me it wasn't a camel. I saw with my own eyes what was chasing me.
He was chasing you?
That's what I said. He chased me around and around my victory garden until he knocked me flat on my Brussels sprouts.
Oh, I'm sorry if he did any damage.
Any damage? Why, at the clothesline alone, he ate 2 of my newest dresses, my favorite slip, 3 pairs of stockings. And then...
What's the matter? What did he eat then?
I had saved it all through the war. It was such wonderful rubber. And it never crept up or fell down.
There now.
Now that that's gone, I can't get into my clothes. And my husband's going to start calling me fatso again.
I'm terribly sorry.
So am I. Goodbye.
Oh, golly. Has she gone, Harriet?
Oh, my turn.
Oh, remember me? I'm the delivery man. I brought you that camel yesterday.
Believe me, friend, we'll never forget you.
Well, just answer one question. Do you still have the camel?
Yes, I'm afraid we do.
Oh, what a relief. It seems they made a mistake at the transfer company, and the camel ain't for you.
Then this camel isn't a gift from Arabia?
Oh, yeah, but they got the tag switched. You see, he's supposed to go to the California Zoological Society in Sacramento.
Well, brother, that's the best news we've had in weeks. He's right out in the garage, and the sooner you take him, the better.
Oh, boy, that's fine. How do I get to the garage, huh?
Just step outside and follow your nose. How about that? The camel wasn't for us after all. I thought a camel was an awful strange sort of a gift.
Hey, but wait a minute, Ozzie. Now we're right back where we started. If the camel was for somebody else, I'm wondering what the prince sent us.
Well, we'll find out.
You know something? Maybe it's a ruby after all.
Oh, that's silly.
Are you kidding? After a camel, anything's possible.
Well, you remember what my first guess was? A beautiful Arabian dancing girl.
Oh, sure. I can just picture the expression on your face if you heard a knock on the door. And you opened it, and there stood an Arabian dancing girl.
Ah, you're silly. Listen, was that you?
No. Well, open the door, will you, dear?
Ah, good afternoon, Saim. Greetings from Arabia.
Well, don't just stand there, Ozzie. Say something.
Well, I...
Ozzie and Harriet will be back in a moment. Meantime, a friendly suggestion to you who will soon be picking out the pattern for your family silver. A great favorite with the women who have seen it, and one of the loveliest patterns that International Sterling has ever created is Enchantress. It's a pattern that uses both modern and romantic design and blends them perfectly. The handle of Enchantress is a clear, lustrous panel of silver. The ornament, tiny sprays of flowers down the length of each side. You'll like Enchantress. You'll like the way it dresses up a simple table or harmonizes with the more lavish one. You'll like the fact that you can start a service of this beautiful international sterling so very reasonably. A single place setting of 6 pieces costs under $23. Why not visit your silverware dealer tomorrow, the one who carries a display of international sterling silver in his window? Then you can see Enchantress for yourself and learn how easily this beautiful solid silver can be yours. The pattern is Enchantress. The creators, International Sterling. And now back to Ozzie and Harriet.
Oh, this is a very lovely place you have here, Saeed.
Oh, thank you.
Would you like some more tea and cookies?
Yes, thank you. They're very good.
So you certainly speak good English. Where were you born?
North Hollywood.
North Hollywood?
But weren't you sent here by Prince Alamagagi of Bazakastan, Arabia?
Oh, my goodness, no.
Well, then why are you wearing that Arabian dancing costume?
Oh, I'm so glad you finally asked me that. I wasn't allowed to tell you until you did. You see, I'm being initiated into a sorority at UCLA.
International Silver Company, creators of International Sterling, invite you to listen again next Sunday to the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, with songs by the King Sisters and music by Ozzie Nelson's orchestra.
Oh, Ozzie, I have the most exciting news.
What is it, Harriet?
The gift arrived, and it's the most beautiful gift in the world.
Well, what is it?
Oh, I won't have to tell you. I'll just read the card. It says, even in far-off Arabia, we know that the solid silver with beauty that lives forever is International Sterling.
This program originates in the Hollywood studios of the Columbia Broadcasting System and is also broadcast over the Trans-Canada Network of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. This adventure of Ozzie and Harriet will be transmitted to our men and women overseas by shortwave and through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Vern Smith speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Thank you for listening to and showing your support for my podcast. If you would like to receive notifications of when new episodes are posted, please subscribe to my channel. Well, hope you enjoyed, and until next time, stay safe, wish you well, and as always, peace.